Hearing someone claim that they have been abducted and probed by aliens on their spaceship might garner a chuckle from most people. Who would really believe it if someone told them that this had happened to them? Possibly the first thing you would ask is, what kind of drugs were you taking at the time? That is probably why Terry Lovelace decided to keep his story private for over 35 years before he finally came forward to tell his tale of what happened at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas in 1975. Terry had just joined the Air Force out of high school and had become a medic EMT. He served at the Whiteman Air Force Base near Sedalia, Missouri, and his shift was usually the midnight shift. One night, him and his partner were sitting in the ambulance staring up at the stars when a 2 a.m. call called them to assist a soldier who had fallen into a missile silo. As they sped off across the base to attend the soldier, they were stopped by armed military police who said they could go no further. Terry looked up and saw a flat black UFO hovering above the silo that he claimed was about the size of a van, but shaped like a diamond. Before he could make sense of what he was seeing, the spacecraft shot off at the speed of light and vanished. Terry and his partner, who he calls Toby, were both debriefed about the incident and was told in no uncertain terms that they were to never speak of the unidentified flying object, and if anyone asked, they were to say they saw a helicopter. Not wanting to endanger their careers, both men decided to keep the incident quiet. They went about their lives as if everything was normal, at least for the next 2 years. Terry and Toby became good friends. They hung out a lot together and had a lot of common interests. Terry had decided to take a small vacation leave from the base and go camping at a state park near West Fork, Arkansas, which is a beautiful scenic getaway where there are clean rivers and lakes and the most beautiful, scenic mountain views that anyone could ask for. The park looks like a piece of heaven, despite its name, but heaven isn't what their weekend turned out to be. Terry was an hobby photographer. His plan was to go take photos of the park as well as the beautiful night sky. Toby was a hobby astrologer, so he would be able to help with finding star constellations and things of that nature. As soon as they got to the cliff that overlooked the mountain where they had planned on taking the photos, Terry was disappointed to find out that he had left his camera at home. The two friends decided to simply set up a tent and enjoy their stay. It wouldn't end up being as enjoyable as they had hoped. Not by a long shot. After taking a long and exhausting hike, they had set up the tent. They sat by a small campfire when Terry looked out across the sky and noticed 3 strange-looking stars that formed a perfect triangle. The two men stared at the strange sight and were surprised to see the stars were actually moving toward them. What at first looked like 3 separate stars, turned out to be one large object with 3 lights on each corner. The strange craft was all of the sudden directly over them, hovering. What should have scared them to death, somehow didn't. They were as calm as could be, even noticing that not a cricket, frog, or even bird could be heard anywhere. It was simply dead silent. They became very drowsy and crawled into their tents and went to sleep. That isn't where the story ends though. 3 hours later, Terry claims he was awakened by the sight of brilliant multicolor lights that lit up the entire tent and made night seem like day. They were far away from any light source, deep in the woods, so he knew something wasn't right. Terry awakened Toby and the two men nervously looked out their tent. They claimed they saw a lit-up UFO that was as tall as a 5-story building. It was a giant triangle that had large legs that was under it. Each leg was said to be as large as a city block. It was 50 feet tall and floated in spot, 30 feet over the ground. They described the sound as a low bass hum but was not loud, but powerful, and described it as being next to a large diesel truck. That wasn't what shocked them the most though. As they looked down at the meadow below the craft, they saw very short white beings that was as small as children. When they looked closer though, they knew that they were definitely not children. The beings were dressed in white and had a very strange walk, and their heads were grey and overly large compared to the rest of their bodies. When they would walk into the light of the craft, they would simply vanish. According to Terry, the hum stopped and the corner lights all returned to brilliant white. The white cylinder from the middle stopped and the thing rose about like a hot air balloon. It made a 1/3 rotation and continued its ascent, picking up speed until it was high in the sky and then gone. While we were apathetic earlier, now we're scared out of our wits. We abandoned our campsite and ran to the car and drove back to base. The men returned to the base and was hospitalized for a few days where they had bad burns all over their bodies and were severely dehydrated. They tried to keep their experience a secret, but after intense questioning, they were met with members of the Office of Special Investigations. They were questioned both together and individually and told to keep their story to themselves. Terry was soon moved to another base. The whole event would give him intense nightmares and have profound psychological effects on him till this day. He explained some of it here. Ever since 1977, I am uncomfortable being outside in open spaces, especially after dark. I sleep with a light or the television on. I keep a loaded 380 by my bedside table and a high-intensity flashlight. I am uncomfortable around elderly Asian women for some odd reason. I feel anxious at the mall when we walk past a window display with naked mannequins in the window. Something bad happened to us at Devil's Den. Terry Lovelace went on to have quite an impressive career after the incident. He was Assistant Attorney General of the U.S. Territory of American Samoa, General Counsel for the LBJ Tropical Medical Center there, President of the American Samoa Bar Association, a member of the Board of Medical Practice of the U.S. State of Vermont, and Assistant Attorney General for Vermont up until his retirement. He even wrote a book about what happened, so if you want a far more detailed account, check it out, links below. If you loved today's story, we hope you'll considering liking it and subscribing to our channel. We sure appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for the views and the kind words. T-shirts and merch and our social media links are in the description box below. Till next time.